Boxing Truth here, back with another video. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, all that good stuff. As expected, as I already told you a few days before the fight, Joseph Diaz was going to beat Javier Fortuna as expected, and he has lifted the interim strap and most likely going to become Devin Haney's mandatory. Most likely. I'm not sure if it's official. WBC haven't really read any reports. They go through a vote and then they enforce the mandatory. The media likes to just go overboard, just, they don't confirm first. But hey, like I said before, just because you got an interim strap doesn't mean you're going to get first dibs at the mandatory. Just ask Dylan White, just ask Sebastian Hyland, you know, some mandatory guys or #1 contenders, interim champions that never got their shot at the title. Doesn't automatically mean that you're going to get the shot at the title. But this is a good win for Diaz with the possibility of beginning the mandated shot against Devin Haney. All he has to do is push for it. And Joseph Diaz is a fighter that's not going to duck and dodge nobody. So let's just throw that shit out the window. Let's stop trying to come to the conclusion that Diaz won't fight Devin Haney. He'll fight Devin Haney, and he'll even do it on as the B side and not in the best of terms. Haney will be the recognized champion, regular champion, whatever you want to call it, and Diaz will have to go in there as the B side and try to get a decision over Devin Haney. It's a great fight. It's one of the best fights that can be made at around this division. The question is Devin Haney going to avoid the fight? Now, of course, there was talk of a possible Ryan Garcia Joseph Diaz fight. I mean, obviously, it's natural to talk about that. Both guys are with Golden Boy. Every promoter, as you guys know, as Floyd Mayweather will remind you, they love to make in-house fights. And if it's an opportunity for a big in-house fight, of course the promoter is going to prefer to make that fight first compared to a fighter who is currently with another rival promoter, even though they're on the same network. But this fight would do a lot of business between Diaz and Ryan Garcia. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here. That's a possibility, but is it really a strong chance of that happening next? I don't think so. Ryan Garcia is just back in training, according to reports, according to some footage, and he's nowhere near 100% sharp. So I really doubt he goes into a fight coming off the inactivity, the anxiety episode, whatever the fuck he was going through, and he's automatically gonna go in there in a top fight. And I really doubt it. I see a sort of a get back fight, tune-up type fight for his first fight back. And then maybe later in the year or sometime next year, he'll go after a Joseph Diaz or Devin Haney type of opponent or a big name type of opponent. No matter what Ryan says, he still has his advisors and promoters who really have more power on who he's going to fight next compared to what Ryan says. But the question is Devin Haney, if he is forced to fight Jojo Diaz, will he duck this fight? Obviously, Fortuna has always felt that Haney has avoided him. Wasn't really confident, even if Fortuna had won this fight, that Haney was going to fight him anyways, because this fight has been delayed so many times. I mean, it was a huge fiasco in regards to Haney's regular title and how it was really delaying some fights. Haney gave up the regular belt, then it was gifted back to him. So Fortuna always felt that Haney was just gonna move up anyways and not fight him. I mean, it was a huge turn of events that led to this. I mean, he was mandated to fight back in last year for the title. Devin gave up the belt after an injury. Then he was supposed to fight Luke Campbell for the vacant strap. Then that fight got canceled because of coronavirus. Then he was scheduled to fight Linares, which fell through because Linares tested positive for the virus. Took a stay busy fight, and then ended up with the fight with JoJo after Ryan Garcia pulled out. And then Haney was gifted the belt back, and then he ended up fighting Linares. He was his #1 contender for nearly 2 years. All for nothing. Ends up getting a scrapped. I mean, Fortuna ended up getting the bad stick of this out of everybody. I mean, he waited all this time. He had so many fights fell through. Fights that were more winnable compared to Joseph Diaz fight. The Luke Campbell fight, the Jorge Linares fight. And he had the biggest opportunity with Ryan Garcia that was scheduled, and Ryan pulled out of the fight, and he ends up with JoJo Diaz. And Fortuna's team made a mistake here. I mean, they should have not taken the JoJo Diaz fight. They should have just said, you know what, fuck that. We're gonna go after Haney, or let's wait for Haney. If we're gonna take an L, let's take an L to a champion. But I guess they didn't want to lose the date or their opportunity, the money that came with it. But JoJo was a guy that he wasn't going to beat. So I really doubt the Diaz fight against Garcia has any probability of happening next. It really depends where Ryan's at. If he's confident in taking that type of fight, it's a great fight. I mean, very close to 50-50 because Ryan's coming off his episodes of anxiety, pulling out of fights, unsure of himself, unsure of his love for boxing, and JoJo's coming off another great win, momentum at a new weight class, so he looks a little stronger. Looks like he was the harder puncher in the Fortuna fight, and a lot of people were probably surprised by that because Fortuna was considered the puncher in that fight, and Diaz was the more of the sharper, smarter boxer. But Diaz is actually the bigger puncher that night. So Diaz is another player in the division of a very stacked lightweight division, very deep division. He'll be in some good fights, whether that's Ryan. I mean, Golden Boy ain't scared to match Diaz with Devin Haney. Diaz is more of a challenge, more of a test, and more of a threat to Devin Haney's regular title compared to an older Linares who's been knocked out 5-6 times in his career. Diaz can fight. He's one of the most underrated fighters in the game, and I believe he's still undefeated. I felt he beat Gary Russell Jr. in a close fight, but of course he wasn't gonna get that decision. Being on a PBC network, fighting on Russell's terms, he was gonna get the decision. But he showed how good he was in that fight. He showed how good he was in a number of fights that he's taking. Some tough fights at featherweight. Now campaigning in the lightweight division. Devin Haney, Joseph Diaz is the fight I would like to see next. But will Mauricio Sulaiman have the balls to order this fight? For some reason, he's been protecting Haney. The Fortuna fight fell through. He was his Mando for a long ass time. Haney giving up the belt. First getting gifted the belt against weak competition in order to get that strap. Didn't have the balls to order Lomachenko Haney. Maybe he was protecting Haney from that L. Maybe didn't want a young black American fighter who, in my opinion, wasn't ready for a Lomachenko fight. I mean, Mauricio did him a favor and not ordering that fight, and Haney was content. I mean, what the hell what does he care? Yeah, sure, he's saying he wants the fight, he wants the legacy, but he's making bank with the zone bags, fighting weak ass competition. Linares was his first step up, and he was holding on for dear life the last 3 rounds of that fight. So how good is Devin Haney? Honestly, he might be the weakest of this supposed 4 kings. I know some people think he's the best, maybe the most talented, but after watching that Linares fight, Boxing Truth is not convinced. Joseph Diaz could upset the apple cart here. So maybe Fortuna's right. Maybe Devin's just waiting on that decision. And now that he's made a decision of not re-signing with the zone, I really believe Haney has really no intention of fighting Jojo Diaz. That he might just move up. And maybe look for a different fight. Maybe a less threatening fight. Maybe a bigger name fight. Who knows? But we'll see if Devin even has any intention of staying at lightweight or even accepting the challenge from Jojo Diaz. It really depends on where Ryan's at. Of course, Golden Boy will rather make that fight if Ryan is ready. But if he's not, the next best option for Jojo is to relieve this guy of this strap and prove to the boxing world once and for all that he's nothing more than a paper champ. But a potential Jojo Diaz victory for Haney, if he does fight Diaz and beats him, will be the best win and most significant win on Devin Haney's resume. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.